Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. I cannot wait to dive into the content that we have for you today. We're going to have a really great presentation planned, and we have a bonus expert that's going to hop on at the end of the call, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Welcome, everyone. I see a ton of people jumping on now. So for everyone who is joining, we're just going to give some other folks a second to hop on, get situated. For everyone on now, I do want to make sure that we're able to use the GoToWebinar question box feature within the GoToWebinar panel. That question box feature is essentially going to be your chat feature for today, so that I'll be able to see all your responses that you put into the question box. You won't be able to chat with other attendees, but it will act as your chat feature for today. So again, that question box is sort of where you want to put all of your input. Think of it as your chat box. So to get us all started, type in to the question box where you're calling in from. I'd love to see where everyone is from, all the different places around the country. One of the great things about these webinars, and that is so much fun, is that it connects folks from all different corners of the world here on one call for one common goal: to improve your marketing, to grow your business, and to succeed. So hello from Miami Beach. Gosh, I'm jealous. Colorado Springs, Washington, California, Kansas. Hey, that's fun. Chicago, Oklahoma City. Goodness, I see a ton. North Carolina, Fort Myers, Florida. Oh, this is so much fun. This is awesome. All right, keep putting them in there. I want to see where you're calling in from. So, for example, I am from Louisiana, but it's not the fun part of Louisiana, so just reset your expectations. I'm based out of North Louisiana. I'm about 5 hours north of New Orleans. So I was born and raised here. It's officially spring and allergy season, and so I see all of my other fellow Southerners. You probably feel my pain right now too. Tons of people typing in. I love it. North Carolina, some more Florida, Canada. Love having my Canadian friends on here. This is fantastic. So again, I just am excited to see everybody here. I hope everyone's feeling comfortable with our question box. Again, that's going to be your chat box for the day. And again, we're all here for this common goal of showing up for our marketing. Doesn't matter where we're calling in from, we're here to grow our business and to grow our marketing. All right, so with that being said, let's get going. Let's kick off today's webinar with a couple of housekeeping items. So for everyone on the call, note that this is being recorded. You don't have to worry about taking notes or anything like that. You'll get the materials in your inbox later today. That includes a copy of the slides and the recording. So please note that all of our recordings can easily be found on WordStream or Local IQ YouTube channels. So you'll just navigate to YouTube, type in Local IQ or WordStream, click on one of our channels, and you'll be able to see all of our past webinar recordings there. So if you want to catch up on any of our old ones or view this webinar recording later today, you can always navigate to our YouTube channels and they'll be there for you. Also, so again, the reason why I have you all practice using the question box is I want everyone to feel comfortable typing in your questions throughout the webinar. Be sure to stick around for the Q&A at the end. Like I said, we have a bonus expert who's going to be joining us at the end for Q&A. He's going to be answering all of your digital marketing questions in what can feel like a very one-to-one setting. Even though we're here with hundreds of people on the call, you can still get an answer directly from someone who is in this digital marketing game every day. If you've attended any of our webinars in the past, you know our Q&A sessions are super in-depth. And it can be a really unique experience, like I said, because you're on this huge group, people are calling in from everywhere, but you can still get some of your questions answered. So for everyone who is joining in, some people are new, some people have joined our webinars before. I want to get us all on the same page of who Local IQ is before we go ahead and jump into the rest of the content. Some of you might already be working with us, and that's awesome. Some of you might be totally new. That's great too. And some of you might be familiar with us through our thought leadership brand, WordStream by Local IQ. So no matter how you got here, which avenue you came in from, I just want to give you a little insight into who is Local IQ, what we are as a company. We're a fully integrated growth marketing platform. We marry innovative tech that you're not going to find anywhere else, and then unparalleled expertise and service like you'll experience later on in our Q&A. And the whole point is to set your business up for success for whatever you need to thrive and prosper. That's why we offer events like this to be able to get content and knowledge out to business owners. So how exactly does Local IQ do this? So technology is at our core. We have a platform that runs on optimization technology and AI. It's informed by data from 1 million+ Local IQ campaigns. We've been doing this for quite a while. We've got all the tools that you need in one place. We give you the tools at your fingertips to make daily tasks of marketing faster. We all know how cumbersome it can be to manage your campaigns. And that's part of what makes Local IQ unique, is we're able to put time back into your day so you can focus on managing your business, managing your teams, rather than focusing all your attention on marketing efforts. And finally, we have been in the marketing game for over 15 years. I mentioned that a second ago, which, if you think about the age of digital marketing, is really not that much older than that. So we've been here through it all the ups and downs, the shifts in the landscape and the platforms. So we're here to tell that story and then pass on all of our knowledge to you guys and hopefully help you succeed in your business. So who doesn't love some validation, right? So humor me for a moment. One thing that we're really proud of is that we are a premier partner with all major advertising platforms. And that's not something that we take for granted with any marketing platform out there. This is only given to businesses that display clear campaign success for their customers, display thought leadership within the field, and meet a rigorous set of requirements for each platform, including Google, Microsoft, and Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you are a regular attendee, you're probably asking yourself, where's Susie? Don't worry, Susie hasn't gone anywhere. She'll come back, I promise. But until then, you're in good hands with me. So a little bit about me. I'll be your webinar host and facilitator today. My name is Katie, and it is wonderful to meet all of you via this webinar. Here at Local IQ, I work really closely with our teams to connect with marketing and the target audience. I've lived a few past lives in public relations and in the agency world, so today's topic is one that I'm very close to. For the last 10+ years, I've worked in one capacity or another in digital marketing, equipping sales teams, agencies, individual business owners, all with what they need to succeed. So this is something that is right up my alley and very close to my heart. And if you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm located in the South. So if you jumped on early and you missed that shout out, I'm based in Louisiana. Again, I say it's not the fun part, although I saw someone very kind in the chat box tell me that all of Louisiana is fun, and I would agree. But even though I don't live in New Orleans, I'm a little further north. I love gumbo and I love crawfish season like any good Louisianian. So now that we've met each other, I want to cover just a couple more things before we dive into what we're all here to talk about today. So where can I learn more about the topics that we cover? That's a question that we get frequently in all of our webinars. So I'm going to be transparent. This hour is going to fly by. We're going to cover a ton of stuff, answer a bunch of questions. So if you ever feel like you need to sit and spend some more time with any of the topics that we talk about today, or any of the topics that we talk about in our webinars in general, I highly recommend you navigate to Local IQ or WordStream website. We cover everything in these webinars in depth over there at that blog. And then we also are on social media. So I would encourage you to follow us there. We share out notifications for future events. If you want to join more webinars in the future, definitely be sure to follow us and turn on your post notifications. We'll also share out platform updates, interesting articles, and all sorts of other information that advertisers and business owners should be aware of. You can find Local IQ on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, or if you're a purist, Twitter, and YouTube. You can find WordStream on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and YouTube as well. All right, so Susie has started a wonderful tradition of doing a pop quiz to keep everybody on their toes, and so I'm going to continue that today. So we did our practice round in the question box. I'm going to go ahead and warm us up to the topic today and hit you guys with a quick pop quiz. I want you to type into the question box and let me know, what methods have you used in the past to identify your target audience? There are a million ways to do this, some formal, some informal. We've all at least asked ourselves, who am I trying to sell to? And ended up with a group of descriptors in mind. So go ahead, open up that questions box, throw in there what methods you've used in the past. I'm seeing a ton of people coming in. I see geofencing, lookalike to email list, that's a fun one. Google ads, that's really smart. Surveys, asking your customer, that's groundbreaking, I agree. Facebook, mail, phone, yes, I'm seeing a lot of the same answers. I'm seeing a lot of really good insight. Social page follows, you can find a ton of stuff if you dig in there. Analytics, reviews, surveys, yes. Followers on social, lookalike audiences, gotta love that. Google reviews, talk to them, yeah, I agree. Internal surveys. Okay, this is awesome. You guys are tracking right along with me, and I wish I could call out every single one of you. You probably noticed that there are a few of the same answers that I said over and over again. Mostly everyone had a slightly different response or a different perspective, and that's because every business is unique. All your teams, all your bandwidth, your resources, all of that's going to be different based on what you have going on with your business. So as we're going through these generalized best practices and things to know, I want you to be thinking about how it could apply to your specific business and your unique specific situation. Maybe you call up one of those tactics that you used in the past and you think through how maybe you could do it differently this time and maybe get a different result or maybe get deeper insight. At the end of the day, everyone's going to have a different experience with identifying or marketing to your target audience, and we just want to be able to give you the resources to help think through that. So I'll give you the lay of the land. First up, we're going to level set everyone and line out what makes up a target audience. So what are the specifics that actually make up a group of people that you want to market your business to? Then we're going to look at how to find those people. We're going to walk through a checklist, go over some stats, spend a second or two with some of those pieces of information, and really learn how to hone in on the audience specific for your business. After that, we're going to go into what do you do now that you know who they are? 4 key ways to target your target audience. Now that you know who they are, how are you going to market to them? All right, everybody ready? Let's get started. All right, so let's face it. Even when you know who your target audience is, the process of getting them to become actual customers isn't always the easiest. And I feel like that's putting it nicely. It's really difficult to get people to make that purchase. It's not uncommon for companies to spend tens of thousands of dollars in marketing, trying to figure out the secret formula that gets customers to hand over their money to make that purchase. So as you can see from these stats, companies are still missing the mark. Even if they're trying so hard, even if they're spending all of that money, 68% of customers expect brands to understand their unique needs and expectations, to know who they are, yet only 39% of customers feel like brands actually do this. So let's bridge that gap, shall we? Let's go to this next slide and see what we can do. First, we're going to understand what makes up a target audience. To the right, you can see excerpts of example target audiences divided by social platform. At its most basic, a target audience is going to be a group of individuals clustered together by demographics, so age, gender identity, income, and or things called psychographics, values, affinities, motivations. We'll talk through the ways to find out this type of information, but for right now, we're just aiming to know the individual target, including the demographics, the psychographics, as well as that online behavior, that purchase history, repeat purchases, and their loyalty. So it's very difficult to, once you sort of understand who your target audience is, how do you continue to find that information? And so we saw some great stuff earlier around internal surveys, but what I wanted to show you is something that we call like the handy dandy target audience checklist, because there's all these different tactics, but really what it comes down to is just a core set of questions to ask yourself and to ask your audience. So you're more likely to reach consumers interested in your product or services with relevant messaging. So actually knowing your target audience is going to decrease the odds that you'll waste ad spend on uninterested prospects and help actually move potential customers down the funnel. And it yields results. So when you're first identifying your target audience, we have our 12 questions to consider. So some of these, like I said, I'll hit on kind of quickly, but then there's others where we're going to sit with them for a second and sort of dig in. So let's get started. Who's buying from or working with you now? Talk to your current customers. I saw this a couple of times in the chat box. Send a survey or check your stored info if you have a lead management solution. Where do they live? What do they do for work? What are their hobbies? What devices do they prefer? So by asking existing customers these questions, you can start to figure out what your typical customer really looks like. And for some of you, you may not even need to ask them. You may just know by being able to observe. So once you do that, let's find out who is missing. Who can you think about who else would want to buy from you and what opportunities there are to expand your target audience? Next up is what's going on with their shopping habit. Are they using their phones to find you or information about your business? Are they bringing in your mailers or your coupons? Is your social media a factor? I saw that again in the question box. So this can be part of the survey that you send out, but figuring out how they're shopping can help you understand or expand your prospective customers and then what that messaging needs to look like. So what are they buying? What are you selling the most of? For some of you, you know this right off the bat, if it's a product or a service, but you're going to want to market your top sellers and you'll probably attract new customers by doing that. So then what info are you using to make a buying decision? What are they doing to inform that buying decision? Is it pricing, location, customer service, benefits, reviews? It runs the gamut, the type of information that you can have here. So this is one of those that we're going to sit with just a little bit more. So what info are they using? Again, we went over pricing, location. So here's some helpful stats to sort of think through those things. 45% of shoppers buy online than pick up in store. I know this is true for me. I would much rather buy online and do a drive-up pickup. I don't think I've been inside a grocery store in years. So is this true of your audience? If so, what options are you giving them to make that purchase? 93% of people read online reviews before making a purchase. Again, this is very true of me. Maybe I'm your target audience. Reviews are commonplace these days. So check on your Google business listing reviews or anywhere else that your consumers or prospects can sort of voice their opinion about their interaction with your business. And then finally, 95% of Pinterest users have used the app to help them plan or make a purchase. So most people are using a social platform to plan or make a purchase. This one just happens to talk about Pinterest. So this might not fit for your business or your audience, but that's a pretty significant percentage. So it could be tied to your consumers' behaviors. Again, these are some general behaviors or things that we know to be true of a digital audience. Sort of think through these, how these apply for your business, and maybe what pivots you would want to make based on information like this. All right, so next up, where are your customers? So just like in real estate, location is key here. You've got to know where your customers are living, working, and playing so that you can meet them there. And then where are they hanging out online? Just as important as physical location is their virtual location. Are they spending most of their time liking Facebook comments, or are they Googling things? And there's a lot of ways to find out this information that we'll get to in just a second, but this will be crucial to targeting your right marketing channels. Where are they finding you? Are most customers contacting you from your website? Do you even give them the option to do that? Are they bringing in coupons or mailers? Are they DMing you on social? If these aren't immediately obvious, you're going to want to work on tracking your marketing, which we'll talk about in a lot more detail in a few slides. And then when do they interact with your business? Is there a window of the day that you get the most calls? Can you see your website traffic day by day or by time? If you notice a trend, that's where you can get some good insight into your audience and the best time to ramp up your marketing. And so when are they looking for you or your business? So this is a different than demographic dates or times. This is more about learning if your business is seasonal. Again, this could be pretty obvious for some businesses, maybe not so much for others. Are your services more on demand, like in the moment? Do consumers start looking months before buying, or is it like an immediate purchase? They pull you up and then they hit that they want to do that. So said another way, this points to your consumer's buying journey and what it looks like before they make a purchase with you. So before we wrap up with the last couple of points on our checklist, I want to dive into these last few questions and really kind of cluster them all together into one thing, which is data analytics. I cannot stress enough the importance of having a reporting platform or having some sort of insight into what your website is doing, what your socials are doing, or if you're currently running paid advertising, what's going on with that. So whether you're using GA4 or even our own Local IQ marketing dashboard or another third party, analytics and insight into your reporting is going to be a game changer, again, for knowing and understanding your target audience. When they're interacting with your business, how long, what they're doing, how long it takes them to become a customer, all of this can be collected in what you see here as Local IQ's marketing dashboard, for instance, and you can use insights like this across any third party or any other reporting interface, and you can use it to hone in on your target and make the most of all of your marketing efforts. And then rounding out our checklist, why are they buying from you? Is it your customer service? Do your staff have sparkling personalities? Is it your great location, your hours? When you know what wins, you can really start playing that up. And then finally, why are they buying from your competitors? This is the one that maybe nobody really likes to ask, but you can get some really good insights if you look at your competitors' web presence and marketing activities. Maybe there's something that is wooing your audience that you can do better. Then you can just take advantage of it and do better targeting. All right, so take a breath. That was a lot, and we went through it quickly. Remember, I said the hour is going to fly by. So now that we know who our target audience is, you have your set of questions, your handy dandy checklist, and your brain is churning and kind of putting together your target audience in your mind. How are you going to target the target? So here we have 4 key ways to do that through digital marketing. And again, these are not the only ways to do that, but we want to really narrow your focus. You can sort of crack open the whole world, but these are just 4 that we think are going to get you the most results. First up, remarketing. This is also called retargeting. It's a core strategy in PPC. It's where you connect people who previously interacted with your website or your mobile app, and it allows you to strategically position your ads in front of these audiences. So retargeting, you can see the flow here in front of you. It's really just taking people back to your website from your ads if they've shown interest. Retargeting can increase ad engagement by 400%. And using retargeting with another marketing channel can boost sales by 50%. So remarketing can take several forms. You can see it through search, display, video, or social, and there's going to be sub-tactics to all of this. Again, you can keep on moving through all of this, but essentially, For example, someone could visit your website, navigate to another site, and then see your ad on that site. You could have someone search for something, then go to Facebook to check your feed, and then they see an ad for your product there. It's a very diverse and powerful targeting tactic. Like I said, there's a lot that can dig into each of these options. And if you've done any of them in the past, you know it can get complicated, but that's just how powerful this tactic is. All right, so up next, speaking of social, Facebook and Instagram offer a wide selection of formats to target, reach, and engage your potential customers. There's so much you can do with social, so much that it can be overwhelming. So it's best to remember just a couple of key tips. You want to balance your audience size. Always sort of move away from any time you're going from one end of the spectrum to another. If you're going too wide or too narrow, you're going to find that you're wasting really valuable ad dollars and getting a lower return on investment. Do test. Maybe one ad that's underperforming for one audience is going to resonate with another. Test and fine-tune your audience and ads. Do not be afraid of that. And don't focus only on potential customers. People familiar with your business might be easier to convert if you've made a good impression. So by looking at your performance of these efforts, your click-through rates, your cost per clicks and conversions, you'll start to see which audiences are becoming most attracted to your business, and then you can make adjustments. You're going to understand who your target is a lot better, and then like we said, you can test more and further refine that. Up next, prioritize SEO. This can be another one of those that can be a little overwhelming. But this truly just means an increased focus on your website content and your local listings. So this is search is often a signal of someone's buying intent. So with search, they've already shown that they're looking into you by typing it in. So that's why SEO can be so powerful. So a few tips to help here are adding an FAQ section to your website, creating blog posts around those questions, maybe a dedicated page for the most common questions. You're going to want to regularly update your content to alert Google's ranking algorithm. It looks for those recency signals, and that's what's really going to give you a higher placement. Link to your social media pages from your website, and then vice versa. Create this universe where prospects and customers stay in. Get listed in directories, review sites, third-party aggregators, and then you're going to want to make sure that your mobile page performance is optimal, because that's going to continue to be a really big factor in ranking. That's Google and other search engines look at how mobilely responsive your website is, and you want to give your users a good experience. So then number 4, rounding out our list is tracking. I talked about this before, the importance of reporting. And so tracking and reporting and analytics, those all kind of go hand in hand. The lead tracking is going to allow you to monitor how your business is getting leads, those potential sales, which is then going to lead to much more informed decisions on how to target your audience in the future. I'm sure we've all sat there and it's like, well, I know I should do social, so let me just do social. But you're really not able to hone in on which tactics and which audience. And so that's what we want to avoid. And by tracking your activities and then going back and reviewing them, you can make much better decisions. So there's free and paid ways to do this. Some of those ways include call tracking, adding UTM strings, adding a how did you hear about us option to any sort of checklist forms, using coupon codes so you're able to track who brings in which codes and when. You can also utilize lead tracking software like Local IQ's Capture Code and Marketing Dashboard. All of that just creates sort of an easy ecosystem for you to look at what's happening with your business and your marketing decisions. You can add tracking to your site, your app, or any other marketing efforts, and it'll give you valuable insight into user behavior, showing you how visitors are interacting with your business. And we talk about making informed decisions. You want to make data-driven decisions that drive your marketing strategies instead of just sort of winging it, which I think a lot of us have a tendency to do. Whew. All right, so that was a ton of information. And like I promised you, we were going to fly through it. And I'm from the South, so I can't help but talk quickly. So I have been in marketing for a decade plus, and even for me, audience targeting and the tactics to do that can feel like a lot. It's an in-depth situation. So if you are feeling the same way, no worries. I am going to round out what we talked about here. And again, you'll get the recording and a copy of the slides later. You can also always check out our blogs on localiq.com or wordstream.com. Like I said, it flies by. So let me give you a few thought starters. Let me back us up a little bit. Let me give you a few thought starters to sort of hone our focus on what we talked about. All right, again, narrow your focus. Resist the urge to target that wide audience. I feel like in life, you never want to go from one end of the spectrum to another. You always want to hit that balance. You'll make more of your time and resources if you reach the right people. Then refine regularly. This goes back to that testing. Never think of anything that you create as permanent. Always test, always refine. And then just keep looking forward. I think we can all attest to the fact that with changing technologies, there's a new strategy around the bend or a shift in your audience preferences nearly every day. So that's where that reporting and that tracking really come in handy, because you can keep tabs on that activity and then be able to shift in real time and meet that audience where they are. All right, so I know that there were a ton of questions during the webinar and still more coming in the question box. So if you have more questions, I am going to launch a poll. I think it's already up right now. It'll take over everyone's screen. So if you feel like you want to target your audience a little more purposefully, definitely opt yes into that poll to get an assessment at a time of your choosing. That way you're able to talk directly to an expert about your individual questions and your specific needs. So I see a ton of questions coming into the question box now. If you have a question, enter it into the box. We're going to start going through and answering these one by one. Again, I am going to leave this poll up on the screen. It's going to remain on your screen as I switch into the audio only portion of the webinar. So you're not going to see my face. So sorry about that. But once you've answered that poll, you can sit back, relax, go ahead and listen in on the Q&A segment. So go ahead, shoot your questions into the box. I'll be starting to go through there in just a second. While everyone's finishing up answering that poll, you're hanging out, you're listening in. Now we're going to go to the Q&A portion. So at this point, I will ask our surprise bonus expert to come on board. I'm going to introduce you to Jeff Stein. He is a longtime digital expert and marketing consultant who's going to tag team this Q&A with me. He has years and years of experience working directly with business owners on everything from how to establish an audience to holistic marketing strategy, all the way down to what's my CPL. So he's seen it all, he's answered it all, and he is going to be an amazing resource that we have with us here today. So Jeff, welcome.
Katie, thanks for the intro, and I really appreciate it. And I'm here to answer any and all questions that we're bringing through. As Katie mentioned, I have been doing this for a while. I've been working here at this company since 2009 and helping anything from a small and mid-sized business to large national brands, and would be happy to answer any questions today.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're glad, because buckle up. We got a ton of stuff coming in, and they're still coming in. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's see. Let's start looking. Like I said, we have a ton coming in. All right, so this is probably a really good one. We've tried remarketing, but we haven't seen great results. What would you recommend? So I'll kind of give my 2 cents, but then Jeff, I think that this would be a good place for you to sort of guide our audience. The key to successful remarketing is really having a large enough audience to remarket to. So I'd start with your website traffic. Be sure you're using compelling ads to bring in really quality traffic at a high volume. Increasing that size is going to help you build a better and larger remarketing list faster. Jeff, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think really what you want to think about with remarketing is almost like the visual I always use when I'm describing it is an infinity loop. So how are we getting a new audience to your website to constantly retarget them? And one of the things that we want to do is sometimes we have to think of what we're doing a little bit differently and do things like maybe it's a website clicks campaign on Facebook or an email marketing campaign to get your audience, to get a new audience to your site, because if you keep going back to the same drinking well, it's not going to really do much for you. And where people get lost with that is they're very focused on your cost per lead metrics of only one campaign. And as we always say here, it's better together. So you don't want to just focus on one aspect of it. You got to look at everything together and how it's all working together.
I could not agree more. A lot of times people look at one thing or another. Again, you want to step back and get a broader view. Okay, so I see more questions coming in. Again, if you haven't entered your question in the box, go ahead and do that now. Or if you want to talk to someone one-to-one, you can go ahead and answer yes to that poll. All right, I've got a good one, Jeff, for you. How do you recommend aggregating or piecemealing all of this data together to dig into audience segmentations? This user says they struggle with combing through mounds of data to really find the right insights. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's a great question, very insightful. I think one of the things that we forget about as marketers is there's different types of key performance indicators, right? Sometimes we want to gather more first-party data. That's not necessarily sales related, but that helps your remarketing audience. Other times it's where, are these people that are actually buying from us now, or are they buying from us later? So you really want to start to understand your audience and the actions that they're taking within your site. And you would also want to understand, I would have to understand your specific business needs a little bit more with that question. But in terms of aggregating the data, I mean, we're in the world of AI right now. We have plenty of tools. And even if you think about what Google and Facebook and or Meta and the other platforms are doing, they're leveraging audience signals, and they're allowing for AI to aggregate that data and help you make decisions. So we have our own proprietary technology with cross-media optimization to be able to do that, so you're not getting so overwhelmed with all of the data, and you're able to take actionable insights about getting better quality leads and better cost per contacts for your business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great response, great question. I have another one that is really interesting. So with third-party cookies supposedly, I like the supposedly, going away, according to Google, who would know? They keep threatening it, which would affect remarketing and retargeting greatly. What tools and resources do we recommend to replace this ability? So Jeff, what would you recommend now that third-party cookies are supposedly going away?
Sure. So I like how you clarified that with third-party cookies, because a lot of the language out there is talking about cookies going away, and we forget about the different types of data that's out there. And this is really just a browser-based cookie, or a cookie that's being shared through your user experience. But there's a lot of ways that you should be gathering your first-party data. And if you're doing retargeting, that's necessarily more of your first-party data that's coming into your site. And you should be doing things like, when your audience is coming to your site, how are you gathering their name, address, phone number, email address? What are you doing to create that funnel to get back in front of people? How are you getting that, user experience level data, which is zero-party data? So the conversation needs to really start to evolve around how you're segmenting your data and you're gathering the data, and less around where you're getting these parties of data and where it's coming from and how it's being shared across browsers.
Yes, absolutely. I ditto that emphasis on first-party data. I think that that's going to be a huge piece of what happens in the future. All right, I see a bunch of questions around the cookieless world and a post-cookie world. So hopefully that gives you some insight. If not, just click yes on that poll and you can talk to someone specifically about it. And again, while the poll is up, you won't see us. You'll just hear our voices. So you're welcome. But we're still answering questions and we're still getting them in. So we're going to try to get to everybody while we can. Let's see. Besides the Facebook Pixel, what other tracking for retargeting tools should we implement?
Okay, that's a great question as well. So it's great that you know about the Facebook Pixel. But there's a lot of different features around using a retargeting pixel from either your Google Display networks or other audience networks that you could be using. Like when you're working with us, we put one piece of code on your site that could deploy through all sorts of different ad providers to get in front of that right person. So Facebook pixel is one pixel that would cover your Facebook and Instagram, but you also want to think about getting the pixel for Google, pixel for TikTok. Any way that you could be retargeting your audience would be appropriate. And that's where you want to think about your website from an SEO perspective and your site load times. So you might want to work with your team to put Google Tag Manager on your site, so you're not loading your site up with too many pixels and too much information at once. This way, with Tag Manager, it all loads at once, and it's a faster page experience, user experience for you.
Nice. All right. And again, you will all receive the recording and the slides for this. So if Jeff says something brilliant, like I'm sure he does, then you'll be able to listen back to it if you just didn't catch it all. All right. So next up, someone is asking, what about organic targeting or non-paid activation? What insight do you have there for us, Jeff?
It's a really good question as well. So organic targeting, I mean, there's a whole world now that's happening. If you read in the digital media sphere, Search Engine Journal, and others, of clickless searching, right? It's really optimizing around the search engine result page where people aren't even clicking. So when you're working on your site, you always want to remember there's one core element: be helpful. That's it. If you want to sum up SEO, you want to sum up how you should be posting on your community management for Facebook. If you're providing useful information and you're helpful for your end clients and it's easy to understand, you will win the game. That if you're trying to take shortcuts and optimize and over-optimize and over-engineer your strategy, then you'll most likely get penalized by some sort of algorithm update that's out there. Just be helpful to your audience and post that content in various areas from your Google business profile. That's a community management source, right? Your local listings, you might want to be posting on there. Those posts only last every 7 days, but it really helps you showing up in your Google Map Pack. To your community management on Facebook. And then you want to think about the intent behind all of these actions, where people are coming to you and where they're finding you.
So that's actually a great segue into this next question.
Sure.
How often should I be testing, refining, or otherwise changing my audience settings? So I'll chime in with, I know, the one tried and true rule around here at Local IQ, and then Jeff, I want you to expand on it. So I know for my years, it takes at minimum 14 to 30 days for any changes applied to a campaign to start impacting performance. We always refer to that as the optimization period. So Jeff, I'd love to hear you have some additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's a valid question. With what you want to think about is the amount of data that you're gathering. So if you have a relatively small budget, let's say you're spending $500 a month, that means you're spending $16 a day. How many clicks could you really be getting for $16 a day? That's maybe 2 Happy Meals at McDonald's. I say it tongue in cheek, but if you think about it, you're not getting that much data to your site. So the larger your budget, the faster you can analyze that data. The smaller your budget, the longer it will take. I'm not saying those are good or bad things, but you really want to take that 2-week window that Katie's talking about to a month window and see, does that really make sense if I'm only getting X amount of clicks per day? Could I have statistical significance in understanding my audience interactions based off of only 10 or 15 clicks? Probably not. But if I got hundreds of clicks a day and I was able to make an analysis over a shorter period of time based on the amount of data I'm getting, then you can make differences of strong improvement. If you were thinking about like what Meta says, their ads, they give a 2-week learning period. And then after that, you really want to run the campaign for about 4 weeks. So that's about a 6-week period of time. If you're constantly updating your ads every 2 weeks, you're resetting the Meta algorithm to keep being in learning mode. So you're never really going to see the full success of how your campaigns are optimizing on that platform. So each platform will require a little bit of a different answer, but the one true answer that you're really going to boil it down to is how much data you're gathering in that window that you're getting.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would add to that, the key is just wait long enough to collect enough data to where you feel confident in the next change or the next test. I think if you are getting in there and you're messing with settings every day or every few days, that is probably too frequent for you to see results or results that you can feel confident in for each time. All right, so next up, we have someone asking about magazines and radio stations and more of the traditional media sources and what our opinion is on this. And so my initial reaction is that you always want to understand, again, your audience and where they are, and you want to meet them there. So just because maybe magazines and radio isn't appealing for most audiences, maybe you have a very specific audience where that's where they are. But Jeff, I'd love to get your input on this. I'm sure you get this question all the time.
Yeah, so I just love advertising in general. So if you're advertising and you're everywhere, then that's great. But at the end of the day, what people are doing, the analogy I always use is Google acts like this trapeze net that catches all forms of other advertising. So if you are using a magazine and somebody forgets your brand name or forgets specifically what you do, and then they Google your service, are you there to catch that piece of advertising that you're doing, or is advertising or radio your only form of media spend? Because then when they go and search you on Google because they heard you or saw your image, nobody's taking that reaction and doing that action that we want right away. They go through the consumer path of reviewing your site. They're checking your social profiles to see your humanizing brand, and they see what you're doing online. They're reading your online reviews. They're checking your website. All of those little pieces are happening in live time. So it's my recommendation to make sure that your foothold is done properly for digital, so you're not spending all of your money in a more traditional fashion, because then what you're doing is you're spending all your money there. Somebody's going to go do research online. They're never going to find your brand, see your community management, do any of those things, and then all your valuable dollars just went to give a online competitor your business.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really powerful statement. I think it's always good to look holistically at your marketing and your audience and how you're approaching them. And then, you have those tried and true tactics that you know are going to work. All right, so I know that we're getting close to time. There are still a ton of questions coming in, and I wish that we could answer every single one. But if we haven't gotten to yours, no fear. You can still click yes on that poll and get an individual one-to-one assessment with one of our experts like Jeff. With that, I just want to thank Jeff so much for joining us as our bonus expert. Your insight and your knowledge are so appreciated. I know I learned a lot hearing you answer the questions, and I hope everyone on this call learned a lot today as well. For everyone else, again, as I mentioned, you can find more information on localiq.com. You'll receive the recording and slides later today, and then you can find the webinar recording on our YouTube channels, LocalIQ and WordStream. If you want to join more webinars like this in the future, check social media. We do these webinars monthly, sometimes twice a month. So if you have, we have one coming up in the next couple of weeks on April 11th. So go follow us on socials. We're announcing dates and topics there all the time. I hope that you are able to join us in the future. And I just thank you so much for your time today. Have a great one.